So I decided one morning, today, I'm gonna be responsible. I don't know what got into me. Maybe it was the smell of cereal burning from last night. Maybe it was the pleading look my wife gives me when I forget to pay bills. But I told myself, this is it. I'm officially adulting. First thing, I start with the obvious, making breakfast. Now, I don't cook. Not because I can't, because the kitchen fears me like I'm some kind of natural disaster. I cracked eggs, and somehow one ended up on the ceiling. It wasn't even near the pan. Gravity and my coordination, they have a complicated relationship. Next, I thought, all right, I'll do the dishes. I fill the sink, turn on the water, and suddenly the kitchen is a water park. My wife walks in, sees me standing in a puddle, and asks, "What are you doing?" And I confidently say, "Being responsible." She blinks slowly, like she's trying to figure out if she's witnessing a man or a cartoon character. Then comes laundry. I thought, how hard can laundry be? Well, apparently, mixing a red sock with whites is harder than rocket science. Suddenly, every shirt in the house looks like it belongs in a tie-dye festival. Then came the bills. I sat down, thinking I'd finally do the responsible adult thing. I opened the envelope, stared at it, realized I had no idea which one is electricity, which one is water, and which one is, well, life insurance. I mean, they all say numbers and dates, but I can barely tell if I'm paying for today or 2012. My wife pops her head in and goes, I smile and say, yep. Inside, I'm sweating bullets. By the time dinner rolled around, decided to play it safety spaghetti. I set the pot on fire, not like a little flame, full on, around, and say hello to your neighbor's kind of fire. She walks in, sees smoke, and the tone in her voice is something like, if you do one more thing today, I'm leaving. And I thought, well, I tried. Responsibility is hard, extremely hard. Tomorrow I'll just text responsible to my wife and call it a day. I woke up that morning and thought, today, I'm gonna be responsible. Now, I know that sounds like a small, innocent decision, but let me tell you, it felt like announcing to the universe that I was ready to wrestle a bear in a business suit. Responsibility is one of those things that sounds nice in theory, like eating salad or going to the gym. But in reality, it has a way of making you question every life choice you've ever made. I had this picture in my head that I'd wake up, brush my teeth without dropping toothpaste everywhere, make breakfast like a competent human being, maybe even fold the laundry without creating a tie-dye apocalypse. I imagine my wife walking into the kitchen and saying, wow, you're really stepping up, and me nodding proudly, like I discovered fire for the first time. So I rolled out of bed and immediately realized something critical. The concept of being responsible doesn't come with instructions. There's no manual, no pop-up notification, no adulting mode button on your phone. You just wake up and are expected to know how to do everything. And somehow, miraculously, not destroy your life in the process. My first task was breakfast, which in my mind was simple. Eggs, toast, coffee. That's it. But my eggs had other plans. One of them didn't just crack. It leapt across the counter like it had a vendetta against me. I spent a solid 2 minutes trying to scrape yolk off the ceiling, and the whole time I'm thinking, is this how responsible people start day? I thought maybe the problem was just breakfast, so I moved on to other responsibilities, like paying bills or checking messages. That was supposed to be safe. I mean, you just look at numbers, right? Wrong. All those bills start blending together like some kind of cryptic puzzle. I found myself squinting at due dates and amounts as if they were ancient hieroglyphics. I even muttered out loud, "Which one of you is the water bill?" as if asking politely would change anything. My wife peeked over my shoulder, gave me that look, you know, the one that says, "I know you're about to ruin something again." And I smiled nervously, trying to appear confident while secretly panicking inside. Then came the mental load part of responsibility, the thing nobody tells you about until it's too late. The small, tiny decisions that pile up until suddenly you're standing in the living room, wondering how you ended up with mismatched socks, a burnt coffee pot, and a kitchen that looks like a crime scene. I thought I could just wing it, thinking I'm a smart guy. I got this, but responsibility has this sneaky way of making you overestimate your abilities. I was in full control, or so I thought, until I realized that maybe control was just a concept I had imagined. And right then, while staring at a sticky floor and a counter covered in chaos, I knew the real hook of responsibility. It's not about succeeding. It's about surviving without getting kicked out, grounded, or publicly shamed. By the time I even considered what being responsible really meant, I was already knee-deep in small disasters that compounded faster than I could blink. Every tiny action, pouring milk, flipping an omelet, sending a text, was a trap waiting to happen. The more I tried to prove I could handle it, the more the universe seemed determined to remind me, "You are not ready for this." And just like that, my perfectly reasonable morning turned into a series of escalating, laughable catastrophes that somehow felt entirely too familiar, like a bad sitcom where the main character refuses to learn a lesson, but we can't stop watching anyway. So after convincing myself that I was somehow ready to tackle the day like a responsible adult, I thought, let's start small. There's smart. Let's do normal, everyday things. And that's when reality hit me. Everyday things are secretly traps. Take breakfast. For example, I thought making eggs and toast would be simple. I had a plan, a method, a strategy that I was very confident about, and then the eggs rebelled. One egg didn't just crack, performed an elaborate escape across the counter, leaving a trail of yolk like some sort of abstract art exhibit. I stared at it for a second, thinking maybe if I ignored it, it would fix itself. Realized responsibility doesn't work that way. You actually have to clean up your mistakes, which is weird because I wasn't prepared for that part. So I moved on to doing the dishes, thinking this is harmless, right? Wrong. I filled the sink, started scrubbing, and within minutes, the water decided it had other plans. It was like a mini waterfall in my kitchen, pooling around my feet, turning the floor into a slip and slide. Every time I reached for a dish, something else slipped or splashed. Suddenly I was less responsible adult and more person in a small disaster movie. My wife came in, looked at me standing in a puddle, and said, "What are you doing?" And in true responsible person style, I said, which, if you ask me now, was both accurate and completely insane at the same time. Then came laundry, which I Natavelli thought would be a safe zone. I put the clothes in the washer, confident that nothing could go wrong. Oh, I was wrong. You ever mix a red sock with whites? It's like sending a group of civilians into a paintball match. Suddenly, all the shirts, the towels, the socks, they're shades of pink that nature never intended. And the worst part, wife walked by at that exact moment, giving me the kind of stare that silently asked, "Did you just ruin everything in your life again?" I smiled sheepishly, trying to appear calm, while internally calculating how much money it would take to replace every piece of clothing I had just turned into a die nightmare. Even the simplest tasks started to feel like obstacles in an absurd obstacle course designed specifically for me. Pouring coffee, making the bed, misaligning every pillow, taking out the trash. Somehow, the bag ripped and scattered its contents across the driveway. Each ordinary activity, which most people do without thinking, a comedic scene of chaos that my wife apparently found mildly terrifying. And the more I tried to do the right thing, the more everything spiraled, making me question if maybe responsibility wasn't a skill, but some kind of cruel cosmic joke. The beauty of everyday things going wrong is that it's relatable. Everyone knows the feeling, thinking you're in control, only to realize control is a fragile illusion. Each minor disaster builds on the last, keeping the audience on the edge of their seat, wondering what's going to go wrong next. And trust me, if you think one thing failing is bad, wait until 5 things collide into a single laughable mess that somehow looks like I was actively trying to ruin the day. You learn quickly that normal life is actually an extreme sport when you try to handle it all at once. And somehow, that's the part people can't stop laughing at because they've been there too. Or they're smart enough to know they'd be me in that exact situation. So after completely failing at the breakfast, dishes, laundry situation, my wife became the most important character in the entire saga. She didn't yell. She didn't panic. She just stood there observing me like a scientist studying a very confused chimpanzee. And that's the thing about her reactions. They are the perfect comedic foil. Every time I tried to explain what I was doing, she'd tilt her head slightly and say something simple like, "Are you sure about that?" And instantly, the audience, or in this case, me, knows that nothing good is coming next. It's subtle, it's deadpan, it's infinitely funnier than if she had just screamed or ran for the hills. The mere presence of a calm, judging adult next to a person creating chaos amplifies every mistake tenfold. Even something as small as carrying a plate of eggs to the table became a high-stakes comedy moment because she was watching. One wobble, one tiny misstep, and suddenly I'm standing in a growing puddle of egg yolk, while she silently scribbles this mental note of, "I can't believe I married this man." And the timing is always perfect. Smart, she doesn't interrupt the chaos until the punchline lands. She'll say something like, "You might want to put the toast down," right as I'm about to fling it across the kitchen, turning my well-intentioned breakfast into a full-on mess. And that pause, that tiny moment before the disaster fully unfolds, where the comedy lives, it's anticipation, it's tension, and it's gold. The best part about her reactions is how minimalistic they are. A raised eyebrow, a slight shake of the head, or just the silence that says, "I see everything and I am judging everything." And it hits harder than any yelling ever could. For example, when I tried to handle the bills, my wife walked by, glanced at the chaos of envelopes, statements, random papers I was piling up, and simply muttered, "Maybe stick to cooking next time." That single line is funnier than a 3-minute rant because it's delivered perfectly, deadpan, like she's both entertained and terrified by my attempts at adulting. And the audience can feel that tension immediately. They know things are about to go off the rails again. Her reactions also allow for some internal dialogue that keeps the humor flowing. Every glance she gives becomes a setup for my inner monologue. She's watching. She knows. I'm not safe. Every move is being judged, and the consequences are imminent. It adds a layer of relatability because everyone watching can think, "Done that." Married or single, Someone is judging your chaos right now. And because of that, the audience stays hooked, laughing at the timing and at the predictable inevitability of failure while secretly rooting for me to survive the day. And then are the little comments she throws in that escalate the absurdity. Things like, maybe you should sit down, or think the eggs are plotting against you, which are short, innocent, and harmless lines. The context of me trying desperately to act responsible, they become comedic bombs. The contrast between her calm, measured observation and my escalating panic is exactly the type of storytelling that keeps viewers engaged for the long haul. Every pause, every glance, every simple line from her adds a hook that keeps people leaning forward, waiting for what happens next, wondering how this train wreck of a day will continue to spiral into hilarity. After surviving breakfast, the dishes, the laundry fiasco, I thought maybe I had reached the peak of my responsible adult journey. I thought maybe the rest of the day will be smooth sailing. That, of course, was my first mistake. The moment you think responsibility is under control, it sneaks up behind you like a prankster in a horror movie. Every task after that became an escalation of chaos, like life had decided to punish me for even attempting to be competent. I moved on to cleaning the kitchen, thinking it would be simple wipe counters, sweep the floor, maybe organize a few things. But sweeping turned into a slapstick performance as crumbs, stray noodles, and bits of toast seemed to have multiplied overnight, creating a battlefield of tiny obstacles. And every time I tried to sweep, something would slide under my foot, sending me wobbling like a cartoon character on a tightrope. Then I thought, okay, let's tackle errands like paying bills or checking messages online. This should be safe, right? Wrong. I sat down at the table with all the bills spread out, ready to adult like a pro, and immediately realized that numbers, dates, and instructions were apparently written in a foreign language meant specifically to confuse me. I stared at the water bill, the electricity bill, and a mysterious envelope labeled miscellaneous, and I swear the universe was laughing at me. My wife walked by, glanced at my pile of confusion, and gave me that slow, knowing look that basically says, I told you this would happen. And that look alone could stop a man dead in his tracks. After failing at errands, I thought, maybe cooking dinner will redeem me. And if you've been paying attention, you probably already know how that went. Set the stove on medium heat, put a pot of water on for pasta, somehow ended up creating a small smoke signal that could have been spotted from space. I opened the cupboard to grab a spoon, slipped slightly on a puddle from my earlier dish disaster, and suddenly the pasta was threatening to turn into a sticky, burnt situation that smelled like a chemical experiment gone wrong. And while all this was happening, my wife's calm observation continued, occasionally muttering, "Do you need a hand?" Which, in my mind, translated to, "You're about to destroy the house, and I am not stopping you." Then came the real escalation, multitasking. I decided, if I handle everything at once, I'll finish faster. So I tried to stir the pasta, check the bills, wipe the counter, make small talk with my wife simultaneously. That's when it all spiraled. My spaghetti boiled over, the bills slipped off the table, and I ended up with sauce on my shirt, water on the floor, and my wife staring at me like I had lost all my life choices at once. Every attempt to regain control only amplified the chaos. It's one of those moments where the audience laughs not just because of what's happening, because they know exactly how easy it is to go from zero to disaster in less than 5 seconds. Even as I tried to take a deep breath, hoping to stabilize, Life threw in small surprises that I hadn't planned for. Phones ringing, pets wandering into the mess, crumbs everywhere. The escalation of chaos is what keeps viewers glued, because every new disaster makes them think, okay, this is going to be worse. Can't wait to see how. Every tiny failure builds on the last, creating a chain reaction of comedy. The audience is helplessly entertained, watching a man try desperately to be responsible while the universe laughs at him every step of the way. By the time I realized that every ordinary task was turning into a disaster, I started to notice something crucial. My internal monologue was working overtime. Responsibility isn't just physical, it's mental. My brain had decided to become a hyperactive commentator, narrating every tiny failure like it was an Olympic event. I'm standing there trying to fold laundry, and in my head, I hear, "Why did you think the red sock would be fine with the whites? Are you actually trying to ruin your life?" And that internal voice kept adding commentary after commentary, a kind of running comedy show in my head that my wife was silently observing. The best part, she doesn't interrupt. She doesn't have to. My brain does the work for both of us. They're smart, and it's brutally funny because every thought is relatable to anyone who's ever attempted something they clearly weren't ready for. The smallest successes became opportunities for overthinking and self-deprecation. I thought, maybe I can salvage this day by simply putting the dishes away. But then, as I stacked the plates, inner monologue kicked in again as that plate crooked. Will she notice? Are the forks aligned properly? Is this how responsible people do it, or is this a trap? And suddenly, a simple task that should have taken 30 seconds stretched into a 2-minute panic session where I'm basically judging myself harder than anyone else could. The tension between my internal dialogue and my outward actions is the perfect comedic hook because viewers are laughing both at what's happening and at what I'm thinking, which makes them feel like they're part of the story. Internal commentary didn't stop at tasks. It bled into every interaction with my wife. Every glance she gave became a lecture in my mind. She's judging you. She knows what you're about to mess up next. You should probably apologize preemptively. I caught myself laughing quietly at my own thoughts, realizing that this is exactly the kind of humor people connect with: self-awareness mixed with complete incompetence. The irony is delicious. I wanted to be responsible. I planned to be responsible. But my thoughts kept sabotaging me with a constant play of my inevitable failures. Even when I tried to simplify things, my internal monologue added complexity. Pouring a glass of water. Suddenly I'm thinking about the trajectory of the water, the possibility of spilling, the potential social embarrassment if I dripped it on the floor. And just like that, something that should have been mundane became a suspenseful moment of comedy. The audience is hooked because they see me analyzing every micro mistake in real time, knowing that something is bound to go wrong. Anticipating that moment is what makes them stay glued to the story. What makes internal monologue even more effective is the timing. I pause before making decisions, giving the audience just enough suspense to wonder, is he going to succeed this time? And then, inevitably, I fail in a small, hilarious way which keeps the tension and laughter cycle going. My thoughts become another character in the story, a sarcastic, judgmental companion that amplifies the humor of every misstep. People don't just watch a man failing, they watch a man narrate his own downfall in real time, which is the kind of storytelling that keeps viewers hooked for the long haul. By the time the day was halfway over, I realized that responsibility isn't just a series of tasks, It's a series of opportunities to fail spectacularly. The real kicker is that each failure leads seamlessly into the next one. I thought maybe I could salvage my day by slowing down, by being deliberate, by carefully choosing my next move. That's when I learned the truth. Responsibility doesn't care about your intentions. Every time I tried to regain control, the universe seemed to conspire against me, and the stakes kept escalating. I decided to move on to dinner, thinking, this will be my redemption. But as soon as I walked in the kitchen, the remnants of breakfast, the puddles from dishes, and the laundry disasters formed an obstacle course that made it impossible to navigate without creating more chaos. Each step I took was like a challenge in a video game where one wrong move and everything collapses. Simple actions became dramatic. Pouring pasta into a colander. Suddenly a noodle slips out, hits the counter, bounces on the floor, and I feel like I'm in some sort of culinary slapstick routine. My wife watches from the doorway, expressionless, and in my mind, I hear her thinking, are you doing this on purpose? And that's the hook. Tension. The tension between what I'm trying to do and what is actually happening is what keeps the audience on edge, waiting to see just how far the chaos will go before it's too late to recover. Every small disaster compounds the next one, a chain reaction that's both absurd and highly relatable. At some point, I even tried multitasking, thinking, I handle everything at once, I'll finally get it right. So there I was, stirring pasta, wiping counters, texting my wife about bills, and attempting to sneak a snack. The result, catastrophe. Water spills, pasta sticks together, emails go unanswered, and my wife's look transitions from mild concern to full-blown disbelief. Every attempt to be competent spiraled into a new set of problems, and the audience laughs because they know it's inevitable. Slow, inevitable buildup, the anticipation of failure is what keeps viewers glued. It's like waiting for a balloon to pop. They're smart, you know it's coming, you just don't know when, and every second adds to the suspense. Even as I attempted to calm down, to step back, and to regain some semblance of control, life kept throwing small surprises at me. A sock from the laundry fell into the spaghetti pot, a dish slid off the counter. The cat, who had been silently observing the chaos, decided to join in, knocking over a glass of water. Every minor surprise became a comedic moment, escalating the story and reinforcing the central hook. Responsibility is impossible, unpredictable, and hilariously unforgiving, and the audience can't look away because they are invested in seeing just how I will survive or not survive each new disaster. The beauty of this type of storytelling is that it never needs a tidy ending. The escalating chaos, the internal panic, the subtle glances from my wife, and the chain reaction of failures keep the audience engaged. Each moment is a new hook, a reason to stay, to watch, to laugh, and to empathize. Every time I take one step toward responsibility, something goes wrong. That cycle continues, making the story feel alive, unpredictable, and irresistibly funny. Unpredictability is what makes viewers want to stick around, wondering what absurd situation will unfold next. That's the power of storytelling in this style. Every moment teases the next, leaving you hooked, laughing, utterly unable to look away. So, by the end of the day, I realized something very important. Being irresponsible is not for the faint of heart. It's not for people who like having their kitchens intact. It's definitely not for me. I mean, I tried. I really did. I woke up optimistic, armed with good intentions, somehow managed to turn eggs, laundry, bills, and pasta into a full-blown comedy of errors. My wife, bless her, survived the day without leaving me, but I could tell she was seriously considering it at least 3 times. That's the thing about trying to be responsible. It sounds noble, it sounds heroic, but in reality, it's just a series of tiny disasters strung together by hope and bad coordination. Yet, there's a part of me that would probably try it again. Not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but someday, when I feel brave enough to risk life, property, and marital peace, I'll wake up and say, today, I will be responsible, and I'll probably set the kitchen on fire, mix all the laundry, spill all the water. My wife will give me that same look, calm, judgmental, and perfectly timed, because that's life. Responsibility isn't clean or easy. It's messy, unpredictable, and full of moments that make you wonder how you even got here. But it's also ridiculously funny if you're willing to survive it, or at least try.